If you've been with the channel for a while, you know that I absolutely love Autobot Diaclone Nobodies or dumbass gimmick bots. From Siege Reflector, the absolute godsend toy color box set released as an online exclusive, or dumbass remolds like the Power Dashers, but all of these bots always seem to come with a catch. They're either impossibly expensive assholes to find on the aftermarket, or part of some exclusive but entirely incompetent retailer. But if there's one bot that commits all these sins worst of them all, it would have to be Autobot Deepcover. You see, Hasbro released two different versions of this mold, the pure Chad Energy Diaclone throwback version with the black body and blue head sculpt, or the Siege Battle Damaged blue body with the black head sculpt version. But the issue is, both of them are fucking exclusive! Hasbro, the lion, the witch, and the audacity of this bitch.
Stop motion reviewer! Isn't the whole purpose of the Selects line to release obscure characters nobody would buy otherwise? We can't have new characters being sold at retail prices!
Okay, so here's a weird concept. Just because something is obscure doesn't mean you have to sell it as a stupid exclusive. Now, I'll be the first to admit that Deepcover is definitely going to become a shelf warmer very, very quickly. This is one of the few times where it would have actually been understandable for him to be an exclusive. And in this one singular instance, his figures have actually been pretty well distributed across the board. But since where I recently moved has the absolute worst Transformer selection in the United States of America, that being literally two red Megatrons and literally nothing else, I had to get him because he was the real only good option here. With that being said, this is Netflix edition Walmart exclusive Deepcover. God, I love him. He's so fucking stupid. Blueberry Sideswipe transforms into a Cybertronian car with heavy inspiration from a Lamborghini Countach, with a few different changes that inherently put me off the Siege Sideswipe mold, initially upon seeing reviews on it back in 2018. The profile is as flat as a pancake to the extent where it almost looks too flat to me in a sense, and the front of the car is a lot more rounded off than I feel it should have been. There are seam lines in the back of the car that don't pop that hard, but on figures like Tiger Track, it's much more visible. The wheels are drop dead gorgeous on this thing though. Like, not only are they pinned in and covered in a gorgeous shade of silver paint, but he rolls to the extent I could only dream of on a car with this low of a profile. The battle damage is actually really incredibly applied too. Believe it or not, this thing has zero blue plastic. The blue on this thing is all paint, but they left certain areas of the vehicle mode unpainted, which pulled off a much more faded and convincing weathering effect. The scratches on the windshield don't look that great on camera, but in person these are as real as you can possibly get. Like, this is photorealistic, and they did an insanely good job on the paint where they decided to actually follow through. The issue is, there's only certain areas where they actually committed with the battle damage to begin with. Why would the side of this thing be completely free of any battle damage? Does he just yeet himself into walls for shits and giggles in his spare time and have nothing to do with the actual war? Probably. But the fuck yeah factor of this thing cannot be covered up by any of these flaws because holy crap, he's god tier. The blue paint is fucking incredible. There's an absolute 0% chance of any paint chipping off this guy. This has to be one of the most gorgeously painted vehicles I've seen in my life. Hell, even the rear headlights are painted with like 3 layers of thick red paint. But I do wish the joints here were painted blue or molded in blue plastic to not break up the look so much. But that's a nitpicky ass nitpick inside of another nitpicky ass nitpick. The transformation on Deepcover is actually really fun to do. I love the way his arms untuck from the chest. The legs open up in a way that's really simple but satisfying, and the process behind the transformation is so compact and graceful. The hood of the car folding down to reveal his head is satisfying in a basic but fun way. The only issue I have with the transformation is that his joints are borderline idiot tight. It's going to take you 20 or 30 transformations before you get it broken enough for you to actually be able to transform the thing without needing to pry it open. And after those 20 or 30 transformations are over, I feel like this figure is going to be very susceptible to mold degradation. His knees are already starting to get way too loose on me, and they started out borderline impossible to move. And pulling the little flaps out of his elbows was a very scary experience the first time around, because I thought I was honestly going to snap them right off the hinge. And I really did think this thing was going to break before it would transform. There's literally no other flaw to discuss on this figure. Normally I'd have a million quality control problems, but there doesn't seem to be any problems with this thing. Except we've seen it 235 trillion times. As much as I love Autobot Nobodies, it feels like the number of reworkings from the Cliffjumper and Sideswipe molds have made Sideswipe and Cliffjumper's character model kinda bland. Like he's the red Autobot guy. Wow, such a maze. Deepcover on the hand is exactly my brand of stupid. The head sculpt on this guy is to die for. The paint is drop dead gorgeous and durable to the point of being stupid. Like you could yeet this thing out the window and it wouldn't stand a chance of breaking. The Autobot logo is bright and crisp despite being covered in totally scratches and not some unholy drug I've been snorting while I'm making these reviews, and the shins have a very convincing scratching effect that looks borderline photorealistic. The issue with me starts primarily in the proportions. His flat profile in his vehicle mode translated into the robot mode a lot more than I thought it would. Like he looks short and stocky instead of agile and versatile in my opinion. It's like he should have been taller and longer somehow, but they couldn't have really done that without compromising the vehicle mode. The flaps behind the stomach also compromise the silhouette even more and make him feel way too wide. The legs are really solid, but have very small hollow spaces up on the inside of the ankles, but I think they managed to do a good job of hiding this pretty well. Articulation on Deepcover is actually pretty solid too, with a rotating head with up, down, and side to side tilt, bicep bend and rotation, waist rotation, universal hips, knee bend, and foot tilt. Standing on all the standard joints of a typical Siege figure, this guy's actually really poseable, but there are one or two areas in the base of support that I feel like could have been improved upon. The knees work in a very weird way with internal flaps that have to bend out the feet while transforming him into his robot mode, but you have to manually set them flush against the legs because the knees get floppy without them, and he has a tendency to fall back if you aren't that great with posing. The mushroom pegs on the inside of the thigh joints also seem kind of odd with the way they're installed in my opinion. Like if I rotate them, the hips flop down from underneath him because his knees give out along with his hips when you do so. Other than that, this guy has a lot of posing options that make him extremely versatile to animate with and gives him a satisfying feel to handle. He has 5mm ports for the weaponizer gimmick on the back, shoulders, lower arms, side of the legs, and bottom of his feet. He actually gets insanely well together with Siege Cog, especially with the defensive loadout. Deepcover includes a shoulder cannon and tiny hand blaster that can be combined into a rocket launcher. This is blast effect compatible, but the connection point feels a bit loose when applied with certain effects. The one weird thing about Deepcover is that despite being a double exclusive, he actually seems to be one of the few bots who's actually well distributed. Like if my horrible ass Walmart has this many issues with distribution and he still managed to hit the store shelves, you aren't going to have that hard of a time finding him out there. Deepcover is a solidly made, nicely constructed figure with a lot of posability, gorgeously applied paint applications that make an otherwise random impulse buy feel premium, and is an overall nicely enjoyable figure to own. While he isn't essential for your collection to be complete, he's essential to own because of the quality materials, good play value, stable posability, and nicely constructed design. If you can find this blueberry flavored Sideswipe on the market, I definitely say he's worth the money.